All right, today's lesson is on Module 1, Section 3 from Review Algebra 2 on extrema and end behavior. Let's jump right in. So the word extrema is not super important. It just means the extremes of the graph. So the two words you want to focus on getting into your notes here are maximum and minimum. All right, and that's just the maximum and minimum from the graph, or the extremes of the graph, or the extremes of the function. And so maximum is the highest point. Notice that this point is pretty high, but F here is higher. So it's the highest point in the function. So it's the maximum. This one, point A there, is the minimum. It's the lowest point of the graph. Now, this one does not have a minimum because the graph continues to go on forever down low. And this one doesn't have a maximum because the graph continues to go up high. And so maximum and minimum, you're going to be asked to tell me whether the graph has a maximum or minimum value, and then identify what the point is. Now, if you think of the one we just saw with F and another point, there can be relative minimums and relative maximums too. And the book makes sure to point out that a maximum is a relative maximum, but usually we're just going to talk about the point when it's only a relative maximum. What do I mean by that? This one has two kind of high points in it. So in the curves, it has a high point there at D and then a high point there at F. Well, F is the true maximum. It's the highest point in the whole graph. D is a relative maximum. Given given a particular domain, it would be the high point. So it's a relative maximum. You could have the same thing if I kept going. Maybe let me adjust this graph over here. Maybe this graph goes up, down, up again. All right. Then this point here well, actually, hold on. Oh, sorry, I forgot. So if I look at this graph, C is already only a relative. A is a true minimum. C is already only a relative minimum because it goes on forever here. It's not the true minimum because negative infinity is the true minimum. And so it's already a relative minimum. This is a relative maximum here because it goes up forever. So yeah, B's a relative max, D's a relative max, F's a true max, which we can count in relative max, but we're not necessarily going to worry about that. True minimum, relative minimum. So let's talk about the extrema I can identify. In the first graph, that point right there is a minimum. And at that point, the point would be 0, -5. And so the x value is 0, the y value is -5 at the minimum. On the other graph, I have kind of 2 points. I have that point there and that point there. Is this the highest point in the graph? Well, yes and no. It's the highest point of the curves, but the graph goes up forever. Right? This is really going up forever, and then down forever. And so these are relative maximums and minimums. And so for this one, the relative max is at, well, what are the coordinates there? It looks to me like it's back 1, 2, up 8. And so always x and then y. And so -2, 8. And then the other point is the relative minimum. And that point is at 0, 4. So you got to identify the x and y values of the extrema, which again are maximums, minimums, relative maximums, relative minimums. You try. Pause the video, give it a try. All right, hopefully you were successful. Let's talk about each of these points here. Right. This is the first point I kind of see. It's -6, -7. It is the lowest point on the whole graph. And so -6, -7, I would put into that category. The next point I kind of come to is this point right here. That's -3, +2. That is a maximum-ish thing, but it's a relative maximum. And so it goes in this category. This one is the next one I see. I missed one in here. Let's go. This one is the next one I guess I'm coming to. 0, -4, which is a low point, but we already had a minimum. So this is a relative minimum. This point here, the graph continues to go up forever. So it's only a relative maximum. All right, this point here, all right, is 5, -5. It's a relative minimum, right? Which means that there was no true maximum value for this graph. So the last part of this section is end behavior. End behavior is the behavior of the graph as it approaches the far extreme left or the far extreme right. And so the hardest thing for this is how you're going to write it. All right. So you can all hopefully look at this graph down here and see that as it goes right, it's going up forever. That saying the words going right and up forever, probably not hard for you. As it's going left, it's going down forever. Left and down forever. The words themselves, not hard for you. It's the writing it. So this expression right here, as x approaches infinity, right, that's saying as it goes right. So this is just a fancy way to say right. As x approaches positive infinity. Well, as it goes closer, bigger and bigger numbers go farther and further right on the x-axis. As x approaches positive infinity, f of x approaches positive infinity. And f of x, remember, f of x stands for y, so this is just a fancy way of saying up. Then as x approaches negative infinity, f of x approaches negative infinity itself. I kind of had trouble writing my infinity sign on the screen. Sorry about that. So this is just a fancy way to say left. As x approaches negative infinity, numbers get smaller and smaller as it goes to the left. Y approaches negative infinity as it goes down. So writing this out is going to be the new learning, the hard thing for you. You probably haven't written things like that before. But it's just understanding right, left, up, and down. And so let's talk about this. As x approaches negative infinity, as it goes left, f of x approaches, as it goes left, it's going down forever. Negative infinity. As x approaches positive infinity, as it goes right, f of x approaches, as it goes right, f of x approaches negative infinity. So it's not always like one's positive, one's negative. For the y's, sorry, it's always left and right. It won't always be up and down. In this case, they both go down. Let's look at this example on the right. H of x. X approaches negative infinity. F of x approaches. As it goes left here, as it goes left, it's going up forever. And then this is really tricky here. As it goes right, it looks like it levels out. And so whatever point this is, it just seems like it's going right there forever, right? So it's not continuing down. It kind of fell wherever that is. And so I want to put C there, some constant, some number, right? So if that was -2, f of x would be approaching -2. Right? And so I'm just going to put C there. Sorry for the bell. All right, describe each behavior here. Did I skip one? Oh, it's just the example. All right, sorry about that. As it goes left, so as x goes left, it's going up. F of x approaches up. Positive on the y is up. Negative on the x is left. And then as x goes right, positive on the x is right. F of x is going down, so negative infinity. All right, let's look at the one on the right. G of x, as it goes left, as x goes to the left, f of x is at 2. It just stays 2 the whole time. As it goes right, f of x just stays 2. It's just a constant the whole time. So as it goes left and right, it just stayed 2. As it goes left, it's going, as it goes left, it's going up. That's negative infinity, positive infinity. As it goes right, f of x approaches positive infinity. Notice I can write a lot of this in before I even look at the graph. I know this is how I'm going to write it. So it's just as it goes left, what is f of x doing? As it goes left, it's going down. As it goes right, what's it doing? F of x is going up. So it's asking for the end behaviors of the graph. So as it goes left, what is f of x doing? As it goes right, what is f of x doing? You try. Hopefully you were successful. If not, you can continue to pause the video. As it goes left, it's going up, so that would have been positive infinity. And then as it goes right, it's going down, so that would have been negative infinity. All right. Now, you're going to be asked to describe what's happening at the end behavior, all right, in the context situation. So this situation, we have a drone. So we know a drone is in the air flying. Altitude is height. We know it's flying up and down. Now, this down here is not an end behavior. It's just not continuing on. It's stopped. This is an end behavior. All right? So I only have one end behavior I need to talk about. I only need to talk about it at the end of my graph here, right? Which is about the 10-minute mark. So what's happening at about the 10-minute mark? What is the drone doing at about the 10-minute mark? It looks like the drone is going back higher. Right? So describe after about 10 minutes or at about 10 minutes. The drone Is going higher, is raising, is going up. Any of those words would work. So it's increasing in height. You can say it a whole bunch of different ways. You just got to use the context of the situation, which means they want you to use words like drone, because they're talking about drone right now, or height, because they're talking about height right now. That is the end of the section. Please try any workbook, page 27, 1 through 4, and 6 through 10.